Welcome to the Silvers Connection. This is Ernie Silvers. I am your host. Today I have Mr. Mike Mooney with us, and we're going to be talking about reputation, personal branding, how we apply that to success, especially now with all the crazy COVID stuff going on out there. Everything we used to know doesn't necessarily hold true anymore. So we're going to be talking about how we get better, how we do things better, how we create a better you to be more unique, to tackle the challenges that are out there. So let me tell you a little bit about Mike, and I'm going to have him tell you all the good stuff. But it's easy to say that Mike's career has been going in circles for the last 25 years as he's been directly affiliated with this little organization called NASCAR. His breakthrough book, Reputation Shift, I'm holding up a copy here, and Reputation Shift is awesome, and it's tabbed because I've been doing my homework on my guests today. Reputation Shift, Lessons from Pit Road to the Boardroom, is a roadmap with ready-to-use personal branding and reputation branding strategies for people who want to create greater personal and professional opportunities in your hyper-connected world. And we are hyper-connected today. Mike comes to us from Huntsville, North Carolina, where he lives with his wife, 3 children, and 2 dogs. He's a dog guy, so you know he's a good guy. He's a dog guy. I love that, Mike. That's awesome. You have dogs. He's active in his community, volunteers with veterans groups and Boy Scouts of America. Here is an all-American guy. Holy smokes. Mike Mooney, welcome to the Silvers Connection.
Ernie, I have been like waiting for the opportunity to be invited to be on Silvers Connection. And here it is, man. I can't believe it. We're here.
Yep.
I'm trying to settle my heart rate right now because to be here with you, I would want to be nowhere else.
Yeah, sucking up to the host is always good. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Man, I've learned.
Okay, so I took a little swipe at you on the NASCAR thing, but I don't mean to diminish it. I am extremely jealous. That's why I do that, because you spent a lot of time in NASCAR, and I mean, you were in the thick of it. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So that's goodness gracious, 25 years in the sport and motorsports too. I had the opportunity to be working for many years in NASCAR for teams and sponsors, as well as IndyCar, NHRA, Formula One, offshore powerboat racing. So pretty much if there were people who wanted to race, vehicles, whether it was on land or in the water, and there were sponsors that were looking to invest, I was involved in some way, shape, or form, working in the areas of brand strategy, communications, crisis management, reputation management. A lot of my work centered around, once the brands decided to spend and invest these like tens of millions of dollars in racing programs, then my job was to help them bring those programs to life in ways that were credible and authentic and relevant to their brand, but then also would make that true connection to the audience. And so I'd work with the drivers to make sure that they were messaged up appropriately. I'd work with the sponsors to make sure that they had the right investments made in the assets they needed to have. And I got to do that, man, for brands like Mercedes-Benz and Walmart and Tylenol, Sunoco, Nextel, and then also on the team side with Roush Fenway Racing, So at last count, you talk about being jealous. I don't know if you'd be jealous of this part, but, I've been to a little more than 650 races over my career. So,
That's amazing. Okay. But you didn't start there. Now, we were talking before the show started. You didn't start there. I mean, you're a real guy. You had real jobs. So tell us how you got started.
Oh man. It's funny. I heard this phrase from a gentleman early in my career that really resonated with me, and hopefully it will with your audience as well, Ernie. And he said simply this: it's not where you start, it's where you end up. And he said, if you will take each day with focused intensity on what you're doing and be focused on what you're doing instead of what people typically do, like if you imagine being on that ladder and you're climbing that career ladder, we always seem to have like one hand going up and our attention's always up here instead of what's here in front of us. He said, if you can be focused here, he said,
like
your
two
success,
hands on the wheel.
Your success and opportunities will accelerate. And I took that to heart. Now, to your point of where I started, we were joking about this before we started, is my first job out of college was not in motorsports. It was the furthest thing from motorsports. I actually still have my name tag, where I was the assistant footwear manager in the shoe department in a super Kmart in Hickory, North Carolina. That was my first job out of school.
I love it. I love it. Now, Mike, did you need a college degree to work at Kmart? Is that what happened there? Because I tease and say, you came here to college, because when I'm teaching students, I say, you're here at college so that you can get an outstanding career, not so you can get that door job at Walmart.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I had, I was in their, management training program,
Yay.
you got to start somewhere, but here's the interesting story that I'll tell you out of this, that I still, I share, because I think if people would look at things differently, maybe other opportunities can open up for them as well. Because I sat there and I said, oh my gosh, I'm literally in a Kmart, and no disrespect, but it wasn't for me. That wasn't where I wanted to be. And at the time we were transitioning the store. Okay. So we were going back, this is like 93, Ernie. And there was this new concept where you could get food on one side and groceries on one side of the store, and your clothes and all your other, right? I mean, we see it, this is like commonplace now, but this back in the 90s was like revolutionary.
That was a big deal.
It was. So the manager of the department said to me, he said, Mike, we've got to, I've got to redo the entire department. And I don't have any overtime money. I don't have anything I can give you, but if you could help me out, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, at the time, I'm going, look, I'm miserable. I'm bored. I'm sitting in an apartment by myself. That's not healthy. I said, look, yeah, man, I'll help you out. Absolutely. So for about a month, we worked, long hours at night after we worked our regular hours, moving things around, getting it set up. And he said to me at one point, he said, what are you doing here? And I said, I'm here helping you out. He said, no. What are you doing here? Why aren't you somewhere else?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, man, I'm locked in. He says, what do you mean? I said, I've got a year lease on my apartment. I've got, a truck with payments. I've got these real responsibilities now, man. I can't go anywhere.
I got a job.
Right. I got the job. And he said, yeah. He said, but you have a transfer clause, right? Because in the management program, you have to have that because we move you around. And I'm like, yeah, I do, but I'm not going anywhere. And he goes, yeah, you're right. So I kind of left it at that. Literally, Ernie, a week later, he walked up to me with an envelope and he says, hey, I got your overtime pay. I go, what are you talking about, overtime pay? He said, I got it right here. I said, man, I told you, I was doing it to help you. I wasn't expecting anything. He goes, I know, but here's your pay. And I opened up the envelope. There's no money in there. There's no check. It's just a piece of paper. And I opened it up and it reads up top, letter of transfer. I'm like, what is this? And he goes, get another job, give this to your landlord, and get the hell out of here. So, I mean, he was a guardian angel. I'll tell you what, I mean, I was, but I did. I ended up that's when I got my first job at Cotter Communications in motorsports. I mean, I was making $16,000 a year and happy. I was changing air filters and big time. I was managing the warehouse, stuffing press kits, running the mail, but it was a start. And the takeaway on that for me was always, give for the sake of giving, not because you're looking for something in return. And that is something that's always served me throughout my career. And in that case, they were Kmart, served me pretty darn well because it got me, that's what started my career in motorsports.
Awesome. That is amazing. Well, let's get on to what you're currently doing today.
Yes.
We all know, for crying out loud, the whole driver behind this show is the current situation that we're in and how much things have changed. You deal with reputation brand management. Tell us about the power of your reputation.
Yeah, that's something that became really clear to me, Ernie, over the years in motorsports and dealing with crisis situations. I had found over the years, and I kind of geek out on dissecting the crisis, and I don't know why that is, but I just love digging into that. And I found that more often than not, people were looking at reputation management as a reactive have to do. Like it's the what now approach. crap, what now? What do we do to protect our reputation? And I took a step back and I said, well, what if we shifted our mindset, and it was really about being proactive, and we were intentional about how we managed and built and protected one of our greatest assets, especially at a time in human history where there's been no other time where our reputations have been more valuable yet fragile and vulnerable because of how hyper-connected we are in social media. And we're seeing it in today's world where livelihoods and careers and legacies are being just blown apart, right? And it all comes back to the reputation. So that's what led me to writing the book, Reputation Shift, and really wanting to take my experiences in motorsports and the stories and the things that I've learned and pack it into an actionable, like roadmap that people can use today as our own brands, because we are, whether we like to believe it or not, we are our own brands. So it's about asking what if, not what now.
Yeah, you are the president, CEO, chief marketing officer of Brand U. And if I hear you correctly,
and janitor.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, and you get to make coffee too while you're at it. So, but if I hear you correctly, what we're working on is being proactive instead of waiting until a crisis occurs and say, "Oh crap, now what?" What if we look at where we're at now and say, what do we need to be to protect, prevent, to grow? Is that where you're going with this?
That's exactly right. So Ernie, if I were to ask you right now to put a dollar value on your reputation, what's the dollar value?
I play this game too, because you taught me this game a long time ago. So I play this game with students. So I already know the answer to that one, but can you walk us through that one more time? Because it is a valuable lesson. Walk us through that kind of slowly and give us the full Mooney on that one.
The full Mooney. Okay.
The full Mooney.
So the question truly is like, if you were to put a dollar value on your reputation, what is the amount that you would put on it? And typically when I ask that of groups, and I do, because I like to challenge them. I like to get people thinking that way. And I'll get three answers. The first one, people will really try to quantify it, and they'll say, well, it's worth 10x my current salary. So they're betting on the future opportunities that they know reputation will deliver for them.
Right.
Now, I get that, but I still think that they're undervaluing the true impact of a reputation. Then I'll get other people who will say, "Oh, Mike, man, it's priceless. It's priceless. I can't put a price tag on that." I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're right. The third answer I get is the one that I love, which is basically this: the people go, I never thought of it that way. And that right there, Ernie, is the whole like underpinning, the suspension, the framework of what I'm doing, is that we often don't recognize the value of our reputation until we've paid a price. So what price are you willing to pay?
Yeah. Yeah. And unfortunately, we have lots of examples of this in entertainment and sports and around the world where people goof up, they lose a reputation or they severely tarnish it. And now what?
Yes.
So we have to take into consideration our actions impact us. People are always watching.
Always. Hey, look, I mean, you know as well as I do, this isn't a phone.
Holding up a cell phone. Yeah.
I'm holding up a cell phone. This is not a phone. This is a recording device. And we are all citizen journalists now.
It's
because
also
of
a tracking
social media
device, because Google wants to know where you are.
Well, they do. No, but they already know. They know it all. They know it all. But the point there, Ernie, is that, if you've got skin in the heartbeat, your reputation matters today. Your reputation matters today, and especially as it relates to, soon-to-be graduates, recent graduates, people getting into the workforce and recognizing that their reputation will be an accelerator for them. Absolutely will be an accelerator for them for opportunities. Absolutely.
So what if this is all new to me? Because mostly it is, but what if it's all new to me? And where do I start? How do I take stock? Where do I begin? If I'm going to say, all right, Mike, I hear you. I believe you. I have no clue how to get this done. Where do I start?
You call me.
Hey, Well, that was an easy
That
slam
was
dunk.
awesome.
Oh
That
my
was a great,
goodness. Yeah.
that,
MikeMooney.com, I
there
believe
you
is the
go.
website there.
Keynote speaking, coaching, consulting. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Author.
Don't call me your show host. Call my guest, Mike Mooney. Thank you for
Thank
that
you.
one.
That's great. So, no, it can be tricky because what we're talking about here is somewhat intentional reputation design.
Yeah.
And I had actually it was a college student one time. I was giving this talk to college students, and this young lady asked me a question that I thought was just fantastic. And she said, "So, if you're telling me that, like, if I do these things that you're talking about and these steps, and I'm creating this reputation, but isn't that kind of like fabricating something or disingenuous? You know, it doesn't feel natural." And I'm like, wow, that is a great question. I said, the reason why it doesn't feel natural is because no one's talking about it. Nobody's been saying you can intentionally develop and build your reputation. People feel like it's a passive experience, like it just kind of happens. Now, what I would tell you is we've all seen around us in our world people who in different situations are acting in different ways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, can you think of people like that, Ernie?
Multiple me. Sure. We teach that, to students. We say, are you the same person at home as you are at school? No. Are you the same person at work as you are at home? No. Why do you have all these different personalities? Do you do that on purpose? Is it an accident? Why aren't you you? Now, obviously, the situation requires us to behave or perform in a certain way, but it still has to be you
Right.
delivering the goods.
Yes, and consistently. That's the key. So what I had encouraged the young lady to think about is people like that. Clearly, that is disingenuous. They are trying to act like a social chameleon. They'll just kind of blend in with whatever's going on around them.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you were acting intentionally and consistently from a place of your values, a place that's authentically you,
Mm-hmm.
and how you're choosing to interact with the world, that is authentic. There is nothing disingenuous about that at all because it's authentically you, and it all starts with your values. So to get back to your question, Ernie, on like, oh my gosh, where do I even start with this? It starts with your values. In the book, you may recall, I've got a chapter that outlines what I call the reputation equation.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of funny because I was never a math guy. I mean, in our household, if I got C's, we're high-fiving, and it was fantastic. That's why I went into PR, man.
That's right. Hey, I've been up for 6 hours already. I've not used algebra once. I'm feeling good about that.
That's all right. That's good.
Right?
It's a win. It's a win.
It's a win.
But here's the idea, right? Because I do believe that there's a flow and we can connect things. So in this equation I put together, it's simply this: your values drive your decisions. Your decisions drive your behavior. Your consistent behavior over time is what becomes your reputation. Mm-hmm. So it all comes back to your values and knowing what they are for you. That's your first step.
Yeah, and trying to understand it. I think sometimes I run into folks who don't really understand who they are because they're busy living their life through social media. And so they're looking out the window, right? And looking at all how perfect, because we all know that everybody on social media is perfect. So everybody is perfect.
They're living their best life.
They're living the best life. And we should be like them. So people don't take time to figure out, well, who am I and what do I believe?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
You say in your book, and I am reading your book, there are only 3 things in our lives that we can control: our attitudes, our decisions, and our actions. Mm-hmm. Only 3 things that we can control. And sometimes people don't understand I do have control over my attitude, my actions, and my decisions. Yeah. How do you play that to reputation?
Yeah, well, I mean, that all plays right back to reputation because the way that we were interacting with others is what others are going to experience, and that will come to shape our reputation. Mm-hmm. And especially in times like we're in right now with COVID-19, Ernie, where so many things are out of our control. We're creatures of habit, man, right? We love having our routines and our schedules. And what has been turned completely upside down, on its head, kicked around the room, wrung dry, and then sat out on the back porch has been our routines and our schedules and the things that we find comfort in. Yeah. So what typically happens in human nature is very simple, is that when when we feel like we're losing control of something around us, then we try to find ways to exert our control elsewhere.
Yep.
And in other areas of our lives. And I don't know about you, man, but for me, whenever I've tried to do that, it's been a royal mess. It's never worked out the way I wanted to.
Funny how that works, right?
Right. I mean, just trying to force these things. It's like I always have that thought in my mind of like trying to cup sand and put more sand in your hand. The more you try to put in, the more falls through. And it's like, it's frustrating. So that's when I took a step back, and as you said in the book, it's really only three things that we can truly control. It's our attitudes, our thoughts, and our behaviors. That's it. That's it. And the beauty of that, if you really do lean into it, is that it also shifts the way that we're interacting with the world. So when we're trying to control the stuff that's happening all around us, I look at that as being, it's an outside in way of living. I'm purely reacting to what's coming at me. I'm bobbing, I'm weaving, I'm grabbing, I'm throwing, I'm trying to move things around for me. Instead, a more proactive approach and way to interact with the world is starting from the inside out. And that's, again, attitude, decisions, behavior. That's where it comes from. It's our choice. Everything's our choice, man.
We don't understand that. And not to take command and control of your choices means you're giving your choices away. And that's a choice. I choose not to choose. Okay, there's a choice.
There's a choice.
And frankly, if you do not choose, if you do not decide, you get what you're given. And other people are not excited about giving you much.
Or it may not be what you want.
No,
and then what?
Not.
And then what? And it's not to say that you're out there just, slashing through, trying to take what's mine and grab it. But the point is, if you don't know where it is you're going, what it is you want, who it is you are, I hate to tell you, but you're going to wake up one day, because you've been sleepwalking. And you're going to wake up one day and wonder, how in the heck did I get here? Because this isn't at all where I wanted to be.
Well, that's what most people do, is they wake up one day and they say, I didn't plan for this. Right. Because you never planned. Right. Be mindful, be on purpose. I teach, be where your feet are. Wherever your feet are, be there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Be there. Especially if you paid money, if you bought a ticket to a movie, would you spend the $15 to get into the movie and another 15 to buy popcorn and go into the movie and go to sleep? No, you wouldn't do that. That's silly.
No. It's
why would you do anything and not purposely, mindfully be there? So
I like to tell folks that from working with high performance drivers over the years, there's something that all drivers know and they recognize, that the car goes where your eyes go.
Oh, that's fascinating. And you're talking about race cars now. Let's just keep us all on track, because when you're talking about drivers, I'm thinking, what's he talking about? You're talking about race car drivers.
Race car drivers. The car goes where the eyes go. And it's no different than in our lives. We'll go where we're looking. Where are you looking?
Where your focus is.
Yeah,
where your focus is.
Yeah.
So you talk about the power of mindset. How does that play into this? Mindset.
Oh, man, it's everything, isn't it, Ernie?
I agree.
Seriously. I mean, it is everything. And I've actually developing a program now called Mind Shift. And that's the idea that the best drivers, race car drivers, know where, when, and how to shift their mindset and their cars to optimize both during the race, to keep them in contention to win. And most people, especially in today's world of these seismic shifts that we're going through personally, professionally, relationally, financially, emotionally, physically, mentally, right? All of these shifts going on around us, knowing when, how, and where to shift is crucial for individuals to not just like weather this storm or survive it, but to thrive as a result of it. And again, my opinion and belief, and I know that you're right there with me, man, is it all starts in the mind.
Yeah.
It all starts in the mind. Everything does.
Yeah. When you're talking about race car drivers, I know almost nothing about driving a race car, but I do know that they strap drivers in rather tight, and they essentially literally physically become a part of the vehicle. So going with your mindset, the driver's a part of a vehicle, so he can feel it, he can hear it, he can sense it, he becomes part. And we have to be that way as people, as professionals, we have to be present, we have to be aware, we have to be paying attention, using our senses.
Yes.
Right.
And then own it.
No, wait, I have to be responsible.
Yes, you
Stop.
do. Yes, you do. I'm
No.
sorry. Little,
Come
little,
on. I'm
little.
living in the age of I'm not responsible. It's not my fault.
Yeah.
Why would you do that to me?
I'm sorry, man. I shouldn't have gone there. This is your
Dude, you're
show.
killing me. You are freaking killing me now. I have to be
No, but
responsible.
but you know, there are a lot of areas within the area of mindset and shifting that as well, that folks should really be considering. And one of them we hit on is control, is that idea of what do I truly control? And again, we had said it's attitude, decisions, behavior.
Mhm.
The other one that I think is really interesting that people are wrestling with these days is emotion.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yes, because with our current situations, mental well-being, right, is a challenge. A lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of emotions. I have noticed folks aren't necessarily nice to one another.
Yeah.
Everybody seems a little grumpy. Emotions are right out there in front, and they so limit our ability to be ourselves.
They do. They're exposed and they're frayed right now. These nerves, these emotions,
Mm,
and what I encourage people to think about is that emotions aren't bad. They're not wrong. They're not right. They're indicators of things
mhm.
that are happening inside of you.
Yeah.
The question is, what are you going to do with that? You know, there's a story that I like to share, and it has to deal with Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s death in the 2001 Daytona 500. If you recall that,
I
Ernie,
do. I
it
do.
was the last lap of the race. Michael Waltrip's leading, driving for Dale Sr. Dale Jr.'s in second, Senior's in third place. He's back there blocking, trying to
He's
make sure that
blocking.
Michael and Dale, you know, get to the finish line. And an unfortunate accident, you know, happens, and he's killed. Now, shortly thereafter, you know, the media was starting to scrutinize the sport. Is it not safe enough? Are they going too fast? Should they even be racing? You know, what's going on in the sport? You know, with an icon like that being
Mhm.
killed, it just shook the entire sport to its core.
Literally,
And
yeah.
NASCAR brought in a gentleman by basically he was brought in from Washington D.C. Jody Powell. He was a crisis expert he came in. He was President Carter's press secretary for a number of years, so he was no stranger to handling crisis. And I had the opportunity to do some work with him and meet him several times through this crisis situation. And he was telling me about a year after Dale Sr.'s death in Daytona, we were in the garage area, and I said, Jody, what was that like, you know, going through there? He goes, well, there was a pivotal moment. And he said, Bill France Jr., who is the CEO, president of NASCAR, his father started the sport.
Right.
He called a meeting on Saturday morning with all the senior people on his team. And I was in there, and it was an emotional release. I mean, there were a lot of language, very, very loud,
NASCAR.
you know, things being thrown out there.
Yep.
And he said the room was full of people staring at the ceiling, looking at their shoes, you know. And when he took a breath in the midst of this release, Jody said, I leaned in and said, with all due respect, Mr. France, being pissed off isn't a strategy. And I mean, I laughed. I'm like, oh my God, Jody, but what happened? He's like, oh no, everyone in the room, like the air was sucked out of there, because they're like, oh my God, did he just say that to Mr. France?
Challenged Mr. France.
Right. But he said, here's the interesting thing. Mr. France took a step back, looked at him, and he said, yeah, you're right. So what are we going to do about it?
Mm.
And in that moment, I thought it was such a valuable lesson, right? That emotions aren't bad. Okay. But being pissed off isn't a strategy. So how long will you sit with that emotion versus moving to action, to actually do something about that, to release? The action's going to release that energy and that emotion from you. So how long will you choose to sit in that emotion? That's a key factor for mindset.
How long do you choose? When we teach emotional intelligence, it's really the quick flyover. It's not that hard. It's what are you feeling? Why are you feeling it? Is that okay? And if it's not okay, change it. And what we oftentimes don't consider is we do have the ability to recognize our emotions, see what they're doing to us, and change that. And people let their emotions run. They get hijacked by their own emotions. So what am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? Is that okay? And if it's not, change it.
Change it. Yeah.
Change your
by
focus,
acting.
right? Change it.
Yeah, make a plan.
Let's take a quick veer here for just a second. Earlier we were talking about, and earlier I mean before the show, we were talking about fear and failure, right? And why are we so afraid to fail? Can you talk to us about mindset and failure and the fear of failure?
So, Ernie, did you know that when we come into this world, there are really only two fears that we come into it with. Okay. The first is the fear of loud noises. So think about when you've been holding a baby, or you've been in the room where there's someone holding a baby, and the door slams, a dog barks, a loud noise. What does the baby do?
Jumps, lurches, startled.
Right? Oh my gosh. Okay.
Emoji face.
Right. The other is fear of falling.
Yes.
Take the baby and you kind of, ooh, hey, and you kind of play that little game where you have them up in the air and and there's that startle thing. Those are the two things that we're really coming into this world fearful of. Every other fear, my friend, that we have is learned. It's all learned and conditioned. And the scary thing, this is the ultimately scary part of this, man, is that most of the fears we have aren't even ours. They've been projected upon us from other people and their fears. And we took it on either because they were in a position of authority or a relationship, whatever it may be, or a senior position. And we decided and accepted, we made the choice to embrace their fears that was now going to limit our ability to live the authentic life that we were each designed to live.
Yeah. When going back to values, when I walk people through the values exercise, and essentially they're given a big list of values, and I ask them to narrow it down to 7, and most times nobody's ever done that before. And when we get to the 7, they say, wow, I didn't know that. I said, well, where did you get your values? You weren't born with them. Where did you get them? Right? And like our fears and how we learn to be emotional about some things, those are taught us. And we're just like sponges. We just absorb it, right? And we get it from our family and our friends and our teachers and so forth. And so these things are given to us. And being good little students that we are, we just absorb it in. We don't even know what we don't know. And then one day we go, why am I so messed up?
Yeah, right? Why am I here? Why am I miserable? Why am I depressed? Why do I feel unfulfilled?
It must be somebody's fault. No, it's a failure of choice. You get to choose.
Yes. I mean, that's the idea of self-actualization, of taking that time to think about what is it that you are called to do, inspired to do, and then what will you do with that? And that doesn't mean, Ernie, I think it's funny. Sometimes when you talk about, oh my gosh, that authentic place or my purpose, like that doesn't have to be what you do for your job.
Right.
It could be something that you're doing in your life. I've got a buddy of mine as an example who is a banker, a very successful banker, but his purpose, his calling, his thing in this world is building orphanages in third world countries. So he uses that day job where he makes a lot of money and has a lot of resources as fuel to accelerate his true passion and his true purpose here. So, I share that only because I think when people hear, what's your purpose, your intentions, they get into this headspace of, that's got to be what I have to do and how I'm going to, make my money. Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
Yeah. Money can't be what you're chasing. It needs to be the result of something you're doing that fuels your passion, something that's cool, something you're into. And, oh, by the way, they pay me to do this. Whoa, that's amazing.
It's crazy. But, but tell me a time when that's just handed to you though.
Oh no.
Tell me a time when that's just,
you have to figure that out.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Well, Mike, we need to wrap this up, but I could just talk to you for hours.
I know.
No,
stop.
Ernie.
Come on.
back
so
to
much
your
more.
book real quick. Mike Mooney, Reputation Shift. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. This is available on Amazon. It's also available now in an Audible.
Almost there, man.
Almost
COVID-19
there.
is it's slowed it down, man. We're still working
Is it
through.
read by the one and only?
It is. It is
You read
actually.
it yourself?
Yeah, well, I did. I know it's funny. That
That's
was something
amazing.
that I had a hard time with in the beginning. Talk about going into uncomfortable places, Ernie.
Oh.
But I stepped into it and said, I'm going to try it. I'm going to do it. And I think as a result, I've been told by the folks who have heard the pre-release that it was important to hear my voice in that, which I don't know. We'll see. You be the judge when it comes out and you get it.
Well, I'm looking forward to that because I am an audio book guy doing a lot of driving there too. Now, you are also a professional platform speaker, coach, and trainer. How do folks get a hold of you if they want to find out more about Mike Mooney?
Absolutely. Well, listen, if you go to MikeMooney.com, that's MOONEY, MikeMooney.com, you can learn more about my work and then truly just trying to help people blow open doors of opportunities in their lives through the power of reputation.
Yeah.
And you can follow me on LinkedIn. I love to connect with people on LinkedIn as well. And Instagram and Twitter, Mike_Mooney. Very simple.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for being here with us. We're going to wrap this up for this adventure at Silver's Connection. Remember, you can find us on YouTube at the MBA CSUSB channel. That's MBA CSUSB on YouTube. Please go there, find us, and subscribe. Also, email if you have an email question, want to know more about the show, questions for Mike, and you can't find Mike, which is hard to believe, MikeMooney.com. That's not that difficult. Even I know where that one's at. We're at mba@csusb.edu. That's mba@csusb.edu. We too are available on LinkedIn and Facebook if you want to know more about us as a program or as a show. Thank you so much. And until next time, this is Ernie Silvers, your host at the Silvers Connection. Bye-bye.